9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, this is Don from DevExpress, and with me is Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Well, I was live yesterday, and today, as mentioned before, we're gonna talk about our DevExtreme controls and how to use them in React. And well, Gregory is gonna take off where he left on the last stream, and tell me something. You were building this car wash scheduling application, right?
That's right. Last time we went over some very simple authentication using DevExtreme forms, and also we went over a profile form that could be integrated into multiple applications.
Yes, now I remember. Yeah, it's a bit of a it's a bit a few weeks ago, but we had Thanksgiving and a couple of holidays and stuff. So yeah, maybe can you share with us what you did quickly? Like how did it look? And then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. So this is what we did last time. And if I go ahead and click this sign in, we'll see that load indicator pop up here that we did last time as well, which it goes really quick. But if we see here, go to this profile page, we see this is what we did last time where I just put a picture of myself and we have this simple profile form here. And if we hit this calendar, we can see how this calendar pops up with all these different options. And yeah, so just some cool little things here. So the first thing we're going to do today is we're just going to work on this home page here, and we're going to add a tab control. And so I'll just get started with that. And if we come here to my VS Code, I'll just go ahead and import our tab control panel from DevExtreme. So I'll go import tab panel, and we're also going to need item from DevExtreme React / tab panel, just like that. And so getting started with our tab panel is very easy. I just followed the documentation. So what I'm going to do down here is first I'm going to add a div. And this div is going to have a class name of home dash tab dash panel. And this is just for a little bit of styling that I have added already. And I'm going to start by going tab panel, just like this, expanding that. And inside the tab panel, what we're going to do is start adding items. And each item is for each individual tab. So I'm going to go ahead and say item title equals add new. And if we jump back to our web page here, we can see we have a tab here. And it just emptied content now, of course, but we'll see how that changes in about 10 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and add another item. Let's call it schedule. And one more, which I'll be calling view all. And that's it for the tab panel, just that easy. And we can see the tab panel. I'll make this a little bit bigger. And we can see these tabs, and it obviously inherits all of our styling that we have. So in this case, it's the DevExpress Material Blue Dark theme. And yeah. So now what we have to do is put in that content inside each of these tabs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my components folder here, add a new file, and I'm going to call it add new car.jsx. And I'll just use RAFCE React template to get this functional component up and running. And for this add new car page, I should say tab, what we're going to be doing is adding a form, an entry form that's going to have some really cool features, and one of them is going to be a brand new feature we just introduced. So to get started, first we're going to need to import a few things. So we're going to need to import form, simple item, label, and button item. And of course, these are all going to be from DevExtreme React / form. We're also going to need to import our date box. And this is a brand new control that we just added. And it's going to be from DevExtreme React / date box. And also, finally, we're going to need to do is import radio group from DevExtreme React / radio group. And if I jump back here, that date box, which is a brand new feature, is something we can see here in our demos. If we just come down here to editors, date range box, or sorry, date box, or either one. Yeah, and that could be potentially useful in this app that we're building. I decided to just simply use the plain date box for now, but this date range box is also new and it's very cool and very useful. So as we can see here, we have things like this date, we have times also, which is very cool. And this stuff is all auto formatted. And there's one other feature that's very cool, which I'll show in a second. I won't spoil it for anyone. So now what we're going to need to do is I'm just going to create a couple dependency arrays. Not dependencies, just some data, so we don't have to type it out manually. So I'm going to come here and say vehicle types is sedan, coupe, SUV, and motorcycle. And options are simple wash, full detail, exterior detail, and interior detail. And these are just some different options we're going to have for drop downs and for our radio buttons. I'm just going to come here and delete that, expand this, add a div, open this up. And for this div, I'm going to give it a class name of new car form. And I'm just going to start by creating our form. And I'll note that for this example here, I'm not going to be doing any real form submission, creating any form submission buttons. I just decided that it would be simpler just to show how it looks. Of course, there's many ways to submit forms and how to integrate with APIs or directly with databases, all that stuff. So I decided to stay away from that for now. So inside this form tag, we're going to first start with a simple item. And also I'll note that this is a DevExpress form. It's not a HTML form, as we can see with the capital F there. So for this first simple item, we're going to say data field equals name editor type equals DX text box. Editor options equals, and I'm just going to put in a object here, and it'll say placeholder, and I'm just going to say name. Yeah, so exactly. And I'm going to come down here and say label text equals name. And I'll just make a self-closing tag. Just like that. And if we jump back, and it looks like it doesn't want to render for now. That's all right. What we can do is just continue on until it stops complaining. You're right, I didn't. That's what it is. I forgot. I usually do that all at the same time. Yeah. So import add new car from component / add new car, and that's where it'll be in here inside our tab panel. My bad. Okay, and now that should render. There we go. And so we have this name, and we have this placeholder of name. However, it doesn't actually fill in the text. It's just that shaded in thing. So that's really nice and helpful. And so now we can just go back here and start adding some more items. And we're going to say data field equals email. And I'll just do this first. It doesn't matter. And I'll just give it a string. Something simple. Editor type, it's going to also be a DX text box. And inside here, we're going to say label text equals email. And have to give it that capital. And if we jump back, we'll see that email is there. And in the interest of time, I'll just go ahead and speed through some of this. So I'm going to go ahead and add a phone and a select box. So for this options. So, and as we can see here, this is our phone right here, where we have in the editor options, we have a mask. And in this case, I just did +1 for the US. Of course, that can be different. And if we jump back, we'll see how that looks. Yeah. And well, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, you can. Exactly. And when I click on it, if you notice, my cursor jumps directly into this first parenthesis. So if I click into it, and then it nicely fills in. So, and I can't modify this 1 either at the front. Yeah. With the email, we can add a required rule. I didn't do it just yet, but we could, if we come up to the top, we could add a required rule for the form. Yeah, that's what I did with uh, this profile page, I believe, just to show a simple example. Or it might have been with the login. I can't remember. Yes, so it's right here. So this is just a simple message. We can have more complicated ones where it specifies, a specific format or regular expression, that kind of thing. But yeah, our required rules are just like all of our controls are very powerful. Um, just for this, I kind of avoided some of the error handling for this form just because, yeah. And also part of the idea for this app was, let's say it's a employee that's entering this data, not exactly a user, like a customer. So I figured it would be a lot less likely for mistakes like that. That was kind of just what was going on inside my head at the time. Um, anyway, so we'll just continue on. So here, this options, we can see it's a DX select box, and the data field is options. And in here, in our editor options, we have items options. And this options right here is this array that I created just a second ago. Yeah. And so now what we're going to do is get our radio group inserted. So for our radio group, it's just going to be those that other array with the different types of cars. So again, it's going to be a simple item, and it's going to be data field is vehicle type, and it's going to have inside it a radio group, and the items is going to be vehicle types, and the default value is going to be vehicle types 0. And you can set it to any default value, and it'll just select that radio box automatically. And for us, it's going to be sedan because it's the most common. And I'm going to say layout equals horizontal. And we can have a vertical layout as well. So if I jump back here, we can see our radio group down here. Yep. And if we select a different option, we can see that halo effect around the buttons, and it's all very nicely styled. Yeah. Yeah. Everything is nicely in line with the material theme. And now what we're going to need to do down here is add another simple item. And I'm going to say data field is notes. Editor type is DX text area. And the editor options, in here I'm just going to say height is 100. Yeah, it's pixels. And if we jump back, we'll see this little notes right here, which we can just add in text. And of course, if anyone wanted, we also have a rich text editor. I didn't think it was necessary for this, but you can edit everything from HTML, Markdown, anything. So that's very helpful too. And so I'm actually going to come above here because I want the notes to be at the bottom, and add another simple item. I'm just going to leave this without any data field because I'm inside here. I'm just going to nest a label. I'm going to call it date time because this is using that date time component rather than a specific form component. And I'm going to say date box default value equals new date. So it'll be for today's date. And I'm going to say type equals date time. And if we jump back, we can see it down here. Yeah, and this is one of my favorite things that we have. It makes it super cool and fun. If I click this, we can see we get this, yeah, we get this calendar and the clock. And yeah, I'm afraid we can't click the clock arms, but it will move the arms. Maybe. So that's very cool. Yeah. Yeah, that animation is great. And we can come here. If we go, we can change the years. We can even zoom out further and have a year group. Yeah. Yeah, I think it looks really nice. This clock in particular. When I first used this, I had no idea that I was going to have that clock. And I was kind of just surprised. I was like, well, we should highlight this more because it's an awesome feature. Yeah. And also, if I just refresh quickly, if we see down here, because I set to date now, it's just the current date and time. So that's nice and convenient. And so if we go back down, and what we can do here is just at the bottom of this, I'm going to add a button item. And we're going to say yeah, and it's a part of the form. Yeah. And if we come here to this import statement on line 3, we're importing form, simple item, label, and button item from DevExtreme React/form. And then this date box and radio group are separate. Yeah. And if I scroll down back here, just inside this horizontal alignment, I'm just going to say left. And I'm going to say button options. I'm just going to have the text say submit. And this isn't going to do anything. It's just a quick example, just so we can see how a button would look right here at the bottom. And of course, I don't have a submission function, but that's easy enough to implement. And I believe I did implement it with a grid in a previous stream. So if anyone's interested in seeing that code, how I did it there, they can send me an email and my email should show up somewhere in the chat. Anyway, so that pretty much is it for this page here, for this tab. And so now I'm going to start working on our next one, which is that schedule. So I'm going to create a new file here. I'm going to call it schedule.jsx. And in here, what I'm going to do is import our scheduler. And there we go. That autocomplete makes it nice and fast. And also inside here, inside this data folder, I added just some sample data that we're going to be able to see. And just for some fun, I added some of our own names. And these just have a simple, text, start and end date. We have custom options as well, but I just decided to keep it simple. And so there we go. And this is going to be a very simple component here. It's pretty amazing what you can do with DevExtreme and just hardly any lines of code at all, and it's really amazing. So just quickly, I'm going to create a container, the div, and give it a class name of scheduler container. And inside here, I'm going to say scheduler, and data source is going to be data, and I can just end it there. And if we jump back, oh, I forgot we need to import this again. My bad. And so here, schedule, there we go. And this is going to reload, and there's our scheduler. Yeah, and we can see we have this big scheduler here, except this is pretty big. It goes from 12 a.m. all the way to 11 p.m. We don't exactly want that, so we're going to do some customization on this. And so to customize it, what we're going to do is come here and say views equals an array, which is going to say day, work week, week, and month. And this can all be customized, of course. And also I'm going to say all day panel mode. So this is if there's an all day event. I'm going to set this to hidden because for this app, we're not going to need it. And I'll just reformat this quickly. And these are all just options within the scheduler. So I'm going to say, yeah. This is very similar to one of our demos. So if you just go to the demo center and to the scheduler right here, this is very similar to this actually right here. So if we see in our demo, this just has some options here. And so if we jump back, we can have for our default current view, we can set it to work week, which is my preference. And we can say default current date. We can use that new date again, just so it's for today. time zone, I'm going to say America slash Los Angeles. And then height, I'm going to set this to 700 for now. See if that looks nice. I'm going to say start day hour is equal to 8. So for, let's say our business hours are 8 to 10 or whatever it would be. And day hour, I'm just going to set this, and it's going to be in 24-hour time, so I'm going to set it to 19. So what would be 6 p.m., something like that. Yeah. Just like we like our imperial system. And so I'm going to say text expression is going to be text. So that's just from our data here, where it just says text. This is why I named it. Yeah. And I don't need to do that actually. It'll kind of do it itself, but it's just, I think it's just good practice to specify it. It's more if, you know, you had something different. Yeah, and in a second, I'll show a really cool demo that has a lot more custom options. I avoided it for this. Yes, my bad. Yeah, there we go. And then the end date will be the, yeah. And then so this, since I disabled the all day, I don't need to put this. So I disabled this all day panel. And so for here, I'm just going to set this to all day anyway. So what this would be, if in our data, data right here, this calendar JS, if I had all day set to true on any of these entries, then it would be an all day thing. But we're not going to be doing that for today, but I'm just going to put it in here anyway, just to make it nice and easy and clean in the future. So, and also I'm going to say recurrence rule expression is equal to recurrence rule. So what recurrence is if we have it say, okay, every Monday and Tuesday we have one event for the same thing on, you know, multiple days or multiple times, that kind of thing. And in a second, I'll show how that works in the calendar as well. But yeah, we can enter that into the scheduler. So that's very cool. But I decided not to do that for now, just because it's simpler. At least with my sample data. Yeah. And then so adaptivity enabled, I'm going to say true, just so it's nice and adaptive and, you know, conforms to our screen size. And so this pretty much is it for our scheduler. So just that easy. And if we refresh, go to the schedule, there it is. And so as you can see, we have this little line across for our current time. We have, it looks like we washed your car already down up here. Yep. And mine's gonna be tomorrow apparently, along with Amanda. And I made Arig a biker just for fun. Yeah, and we can scroll down, and I have it set down here to 6. And also, yeah, it stays at 8. Yeah. And we can come here and we can change the view. So let's say I go to the day view. We can see how it looks here. We can go to the week as well as the month. And we can just see these events here. Now, what we can do is if we say click on one of these, it'll expand a pop-up here. And also I'll note that another thing we can do is if we just jump back here, these different colors, we could also set custom colors. So perhaps if you have a set type of meeting, like let's say if you have a meeting with colleagues or a meeting with the customer, you can set different colors for those two different types, things like that. So that's also possible. Um, if I jump back here, to our demos, here, to customization and custom templates, you can see here in this demo, what we've shown is that you can have on the same day two different groups. So you can have Cinema Hall 1 and 2, and this is still in the day view. And if we jump to the week view, you can see how it changes. Yeah, so this is another one of our options and demos that you can use. And this is pretty cool too. So if I go back to our app here, we also have here the same kind of feature as the calendar dropdown in the form, where we can see the calendar here. And this all still works the same way. Yeah, and if I jump back here, this is all a unified theme with everything else. Yep. And so also what I wanted to show is what you can do directly from here is create new events directly from the scheduler. So let's say if I click, down here, and if I double click that, it opens a pop-up. And so we can set our start and end times. And again, we have that same control. And we can set it as an all-day event. We can add a description. We can add a subject. And also, if I hit this repeat slider here, it expands. And we have our repeating options. So you can say repeat every 3 days, and say we can do on whatever day it'll stop repeating, that kind of thing. So it's very cool. Yeah, absolutely. And I would recommend, of course, making sure the data is right before creating any tables, that kind of thing. So there's not too much work for your backend, but it's fairly simple still. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can disable, for example, this repeat functionality, and it just won't show it. I just left it in just so we can see how it looks. But yeah. Yeah, that too, we can get rid of that. That all day panel actually is at the top that I disabled. I didn't disable the all day functionality, just the panel. So I can get rid of that so we can see how it looks. I'll just get rid of this really quickly. And if I jump back, see how it says all day up here? And if I click something, it'll start in the all day kind of mode. So that's another option. I just took it out just so we don't have too many lines and it's a little easier to read, but of course that's possible. Also, let's say I want to add an event here at the same time as mine. I can just double click this little corner and that still works. Yeah, so you can still get the sides. Yeah. Also, we can highlight. So that's another great feature. So let's say I want to do something for, quite a bit of time here on Friday. Oops. We can highlight and it'll, yeah, and it'll make it so for this, in this case, it'll be 11 or 8 to 11:30. So it's quite a bit larger range. Yeah. So yeah, that's the basics of our scheduler. And of course, with everything, we have millions of options. And this is just very basic. And if we jump back to my code, we can see how simple it was, where it's hardly any code at all. Like it's literally like 10 lines. Yeah, we just have our data right here, and that's it. And what's great about DevExtreme is we've kind of done our best to remove a lot of the complexity when it comes to figuring out how to map these things. And we've kind of set up a standard way of doing it. So as long as you follow those standards, everything should work straight out of the box. That being said, you can customize it still. Yeah, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create that last view all. And that view all is going to be very simple, just a data grid. I was considering doing something more complicated, but data grid is, old, reliable. So I'm just going to create this view all appointments file here. If I jump back here, I'm going to add that. Okay, now down here, and there we go, add the view all appointments into our tab control. And if we go back to our view all, we can just see how it says view all appointments, just a simple text. So I'll go ahead and start building that out. And for this, what we're going to need to do is, again, have our imports. And I'm going to import data grid, sorting, load panel, editing, and column from DevExtreme React / data grid. And also we're going to import that data again. From this calendar.js file, just so it's unified. Of course, in reality, we'd have a single call to our database and it would fill out all this, and we'd pass in our various data through props. But for this, it's simple enough just to hard code it in. So I'm going to create a div called grid container. And inside here, I'm just going to say our data grid. And inside, I'm just going to open this out and say ID equals data grid, data source equals data, search panel equals visible true with 200, and again that is pixels. And the placeholder, I'm going to say search with 3 dots. Here we go. And I'm going to say show borders is equal to true. And this is just personal preference, so it's nice and easy to read within the tab control. Allow column reordering, I'm going to set to true. It's just so we can reorder the columns. Allow column resizing, I'm also going to set to true. And finally, I'm going to say column auto width is equal to true. And so this is just going to auto size the columns for us when we load the page. And I'm going to say ref is data grid, and this is just going to be a simple React use ref here. So I'm going to say const data grid equals react dot create ref, just like this. And again, this is just all from our documentation. I went a little bit more in depth in the previous stream, so if anyone wants to see that, they can contact me. So I'm going to add our sorting right here, and I'm going to say mode equals multiple, so we can sort multiple different columns at the same time. And here I'm going to say load panel enabled equals true. And I'm going to do our editing. And in that other stream I mentioned, for this mode, we had it mode equals row. And with the row mode, it edits inline, sort of like a spreadsheet. For this, I'm going to do pop-up. And I'm going to say allow updating equals true. Allow adding equals true. And allow deleting equals true. And finally, I'm going to say use icons is also equal to true. And so that's just our editing. Just so it allows us to edit. And finally, I'm going to come here and I'm just going to add some of our columns. So we're just going to be the 3 columns that we have. So it's going to be the text, the start, and end time. Yes, it should. There we go. And this data type is date time. We can also have date or just time. And so this is going to format our data nicely. And if we come back here to this calendar, as we can see, this date object here are these kind of like long, nasty strings. But the data grid will handle all that formatting for us automatically. So if we jump back here to this view all, it won't render for some reason. Here, it's because of this. I misspelled the sorting, just that's it. There we go, and there. So these are just, right, our simple data grid. So let's say if I edit this, it has this pop-up here. And again, we have this same stuff. Yep. And I just did it with this simple text. Of course, we can customize everything so we can have that similar look to that other form I added, where we have the radio buttons and so on. I just decided to keep it simple here, but we can have it in the same style here as well. And again, we have our search panel here. So if we search for, my name, it'll pop up nicely. We have our add icon right here, as well as our sorting, so we can sort. So let's say we want to sort by start time, as well as text, or we can sort many different ways. You're right. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great feature. And I can also add the I can't add the end date, but here. Or yes, we can actually. And we have the 3 on the end date. I just have to press down the shift key. So yeah, and if we jump back to the schedule, we can see that this orange line has been moving as we've been talking. So yeah, I mean, this is a very simple example here. And of course, we can delete as well, and all this stuff works. So for example, if I just like edit this, and I'll just put like a 1 at the end of this and save it, it'll show up here because we have that data grid ref. However, this doesn't, of course, save to our data file. So if I refresh the page, that will go away. But we can see how it works. And also, I can just come here really quickly and maybe add an event here just so we see how that looks. Just so, I don't know, we'll call it event 123. And I'll just hit done. And there it is. It's there. Yeah. And also, if I come and click this, I can edit it. And I'll just make it an all day event just so we can see how that looks. And with that all day event, it pops up here in a little bubble. And if we see it, there it is. And it just says the date instead of the date and the time. And I'll just delete it. And yeah. Yeah. And we have a few minutes left. So in this time, I thought it'd be fun for us just to have some fun and play around with some themes. Because that's always a fun time. Yeah. The themes is great. As someone who's done a lot of CSS in the past, it's really great to just have it all set up for you. Focus on development. Yeah. Sadly, I do have some. Yeah. I have a little bit of CSS. So if I scroll down here, this new car form, I have some, some width and margin padding options, but that's about it. Just so it looks a little bit cleaner on the screen. So for example, I wanted it to be centered, this form, and I wanted to have a little bit of space at the top and so on. Same with the schedule. I didn't want it to be, jammed up against this line. Um, but it's still, I mean, it's pretty simple. I'll just zoom out a bit and we can come here and I added some themes here just so we can see them. So right now I've been using the material blue theme. So I can just change this very quickly to, let's say, the orange, and we can see, yeah, that's why I did it. I wasn't even planning on doing it. I just remembered that. So we could see everything becomes the orange color. Yeah. Yeah, I believe we can. I'm not sure if it, this is just from our default theme. I'm sure you can modify that because it's just CSS at the end of the day, so that can all be modified. It'll kind of be annoying. I'd say there's probably a good chance we have a support center ticket about that already. Um, I can't remember, but yeah. Also, what you can do is also you can use our theme builder, and Yeah, and so you can customize all the text colors. So this like lighter gray kind of text, we can make that brighter. So that's all possible with our theme builder. But just to show, I'll comment this out and I'll show you another theme. So this is the material teal dark. So this is just a slightly different shade. And this teal color, I think this looks, it's a little bit easier to read on this color with the black. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like the teal color personally. I think it looks nice. And of course, everything is teal now. Yeah, and then I'll jump back. And so far we've been using our material themes, and I also have this material theme down here as well. I'll just show that really quick. So this is a compact theme. So the material lime light compact. So if I jump back here, I'll just do a quick refresh. It's a lot smaller. So everything is has less padding and less just the font size is smaller as well. And it's a lot, yeah, so like this is even slightly cut off because it's that compact theme. But it's this very bright lime color. I really don't like it, but I just thought it would be interesting to see. um, yeah, and so this is a really so to see some of our more sort of bootstrap kind of themes, we can just use like this, for example, is dx.softblue, and this is just gonna break all our styling, so I'll have to refresh, and we can see here. Yeah, and this is cool because if I click outside of this tab, this border disappears. If I click inside it, we have this blue border. Hopefully everyone can see that. And our icon theme is different. Our text is different. Our font, it's no longer the Roboto font. And if I click the schedule, this looks very different. We have these tabs here instead of the drop down. We actually have an example of that. If I come to our docs here, I think we do. I'm not exactly sure. So for example, this DevExtreme React template. So, or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong about it. But I know we have here. Let me just do a quick search for it. Um, yeah, I mean, the very yeah, I've tried doing this. The big problem with this is that it's really difficult in React. Like we have this theme switcher on our own website here on our js.devexpress website. The big problem is with React. If I'll jump back here, so these CSS files are being imported in a JavaScript file, right? So to be able to change it dynamically, a few things need to happen. It needs to modify the DOM entirely, and it needs to reload the page at least. Um, the best way to do this is to have two separate, not two separate CSS files. I've tried that; that doesn't really work. It's to have different things. Like for example, like this profile form, I would have profile form, and I would have, profile form dark, like that, and I'd have to do it this way, so I can dynamically change the class name inside my HTML tags. So for example here, inside this tag, I would have a ternary operator. I would say is dark, and I would have this class name change. So that's the best way to do it. That's, I guess, the correct React way to do it. That's just very difficult with our CSS files because our CSS files are so all encompassing. That's why I've stuck to just the imports for these demos, just because it's a lot of code. We have, I know, I can't remember where it is. Um, if you email me, I can try to look for it. I know we have an example of that somewhere. I think it's a support center ticket. Yeah. Anyway, so just to close out, I'll just show. So these are some of our lesser known themes, and actually I'll show you where all our CSS files are if anyone's curious. So if we come into our node modules folder and go down to DevExtreme down here, dist right here, these are where all our CSS files are. If I expand this a little bit, we can see all of our different ones, all of our default themes. And so just to show that dark violet theme, this is how that one looks, where it's this really nice like purpley color. And as you can see here, this is the white text now instead of the black on this theme. So I mean, that's potentially something we might want to change in the future, just in our default theme to change the color, as that commenter mentioned. Yeah, and this is all highlighted here. This color all follows, and if we change, yeah, everything changes as expected. And this is our data grid with that sort of bootstrap theme. This is actually, I mean, this looks very similar to the grid you were using yesterday, Don. And if we come, and I'll just add this, I'll just put on this last one just so we can see just before we go, just, why not? Yeah. And so this is another kind of cool theme. I prefer the previous one personally, but this is just another option. Yeah, we have just infinite options. Yeah, so this is just a little simple example of our scheduler. Some more data grid and some more forms. I really like how easy it is, and of course, there's a lot more that we can do. If I jump back here, we have a lot of documentation, and we also have templates. So for example, if I jump into our templates, we have a uh, scheduler template as well. So this scheduler template has a calendar built in and connected to the scheduler, just as a calendar component separately. And this is just another option. If we go here, we can see our source code, and we can also hit this and see a standalone app. We can choose different themes here in our template view. So we can say a dark compact theme and see how that looks. So this is a great place to get some ideas, some inspiration, see how you might want to style your own apps. Yeah, it's really nice and easy. And so, yeah, that just about wraps it up for today.
Cool. Well, that looks extremely nice, and obviously all the features that we have in our controls is just great. We did get a couple of questions that have been answered, or either by you or on mail. So yeah, I'd like to thank everybody who was watching us. And tomorrow we'll have another stream with Amanda and Eric. And not entirely sure what Eric was planning on doing, but I'd say let's check it out, and it will be cool anyway. So thank you for watching. And I hope till tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone.